Okay, so the next feeling that we'll touch base is, I would say, probably one of the most important feelings that we need to grasp again, because it's the feeling we spend much of our lives trying to get away from. It's called healthy shame. Healthy shame is the inborn feeling of knowing that we're needy. It's the inborn recognition that recognizes without words that without you, I won't make it. So healthy shame is the dependency feeling. When you and I are born, we can't do anything but out of our healthy shame, out of our neediness, cry out, reach out, take in for life's sake. Without that the needs being met, we won't make it. Now, so this neediness, dependency is neediness, is something that we need to keep. We will always be in need of God and others in our lives to be able to live this life fully, to be able to maintain and fulfill whatever we're called to do in terms of the mission of our lives. Now, there is a neediness that is a demand that somebody do something to make sure I don't have to experience my life. That's not neediness, that's demand and running from dealing with my life on life's terms. But there's another kind of neediness that's inborn, and if you don't have your needs met, you won't make it. Now, a grown-up version of neediness, a grown-up version of healthy shame sounds like this. I make mistakes. So do you. I don't have all the answers. I have some, but what answers do you have? I'm not God, and you aren't either. So I'm going to get out of the God business, and I support you doing the same thing, and I'm not going to look for you to be God in my life, but I would look for you to show me who God is through your life, okay? And then the final statement of healthy shame is, I need you, and you need me. And that I need you is very often a very frightening statement. I need you. Makes us vulnerable to letting go of control and putting another person at a place when they can say no. And that no is the threat on some level of our needs not being met. And that threat of our needs not being met puts me in a position where we experience ourselves a lot of times as desperate. And in our desperation, we will go towards survival instead of remaining vulnerable. I'll take care of it myself. I won't need anyone. I'll get away from having a need. And then I will try not to make mistakes, which will put me in a position of needing others. I'll try not to need anyone so I don't have to experience rejection. I will try to become God, perfect and powerful, so that I won't be in a position of not knowing the answers. And I'll try to have all the answers so I won't have to look to you with my questions. Okay? So that condition of rejecting our neediness is called toxic shame. Okay? When I reject the fact that I am human, those four characteristics that I named are the four qualities of being human that are never going to change. You're going to spend the rest of your life making mistakes. When I'm 85, I'm going to be asking a lot of the same questions about life that I asked at 25. What's going to happen? What will turn up? Who will be there? Will it turn out okay? How am I going to die? Will I make it? How are my kids going to be? Instead of how am I going to be, how are my kids going to be? How are their hopefully grandkids? Or I'm going to be asking the same questions like, will my life matter? Does it matter? At 85 and 25 and 45. Well, see, this is the difficult thing, and it arouses healthy shame. It's going to take a lifetime for me to learn how to live. And almost all of us, we have this idea that we're going to climb the mountain and there's a flat spot on top where we build a cabin and go, okay, the people I want to be here are here and everybody else is down there. We want to get to a place where we don't have to struggle. We don't have to be in need. We don't have to ultimately be in prayer. We want to be in a place, well, that's called heaven. And while you're here, you're not there. So there's no cabin. There are many places to rest called daily refilling, replenishment, redemption, restoration, all those daily RE experiences. Anytime you pour out, you need to be filled up. And you can't pour yourself out climbing to the mountain of perfection because you're not going to get there. So it takes a lifetime to learn how to live, number one. And number two, like I said earlier, the best we ever get is clumsy. The best we're ever going to get is imperfect. We're always going to be WIPs, works in progress. We're not going to escape neediness of each other, having to face myself and God. So not only are we works in progress, but in being a work in progress, it's literally like we are always like giraffes running on ice. Is a picture, sort of a picture I use because giraffes and ice don't seem to fit. And then giraffes running on ice, we know what that looks like. A lot of long legs and a lot of tangled knots. It's just going to be clumsy. So you're going under anesthesia and the doctor says to you, I want you need to know I'm practicing. So this could turn out really badly because it's practice. Practice is where we make all our mistakes. But the best it's ever going to get is practice. And that is scary, lonely, hurtful. It puts us in a place of needing. So the better we are at needing each other, the stronger we are at living life well. We can do together so much more than we'll ever do apart. In fellowship with God, in fellowship with each other, and in fellowship with how God made me. Now, fellowship turns into a ship of fellows. Do you get that? Fellowship is a ship of fellows. And what is it that we're doing, and especially, say, in ministry so often, you're called together with a common mission headed towards a place that you hope to get to. So fellowship is how the ship runs upon an ocean of all kinds of difficulties and storms and calm days and threatening days. And you have to have people in their appropriate authority doing what they're called to do and made to do. Now, the way Healthy Shame works, I don't have all the answers and you don't either. I have some, and so do you. And I'm asking and calling you to bring your answers, your experience, your intuition, your gifts to the forefront. You put your gifts on the table. They're not all the gifts, they're some of the gifts. Now what that means is that I have some and you have some. So, let's say you have peas, you have firewood, you have a match, you have water, you have a pot, you have beef, you have carrots, you have potatoes. What do we have if we'll throw it all together? A stew. And then we have a community pot we eat. But if all you've got is water and all I've got is peas, and we don't put our peas and water together, and somebody offer a pot, all you've got is survival. But in the sharing of our equal dependency, we wind up having a community. Now we're back to fellowship. Each person in their giftedness, each person in their appropriate authority, showing up and giving what you've got. And no one is everything, but someone is leading. And our capacity to submit our gifts to a common mission that someone has been called to lead, who is submitted to God leading, can make things happen that are amazing. And it all starts with neediness, facing limitations, knowing I'm a work in progress, knowing I'm never going to get there, and we're on a ship of fellows, and everybody needs to pull their weight. Pull their weight in neediness. Pull their weight in the gift of what neediness brings is humility. The gift of healthy shame is humility. The beauty of humility, it means really ultimately dirt. And Psalm 103 says beautifully, God remembers that we are made of dust. And he is slow to anger in terms of pushing, slow to giving up on us. And he remembers that we're made of dust. And so he's very compassionate and merciful towards us, to the point that he even separates our sins as far as the east is from the west. He's describing the great ocean of disappearance. He knows how we are. And the way that we remain alive to how we are is through I'm made out of dust. I'm never going to get as great as I want to be or as good as I want to be. I will always be a creature living in the gratitude of mercy I've been given. Healthy shame. It's just amazing. And this is what we spend our lives running from, because so many ways, if a person is dependent, now it's amazing is every single human being is dependent. You're going to depend on something, someone, someplace, for sure. Either you're going to depend upon how you're made, who made you, and whose you're made to be, or you're going to depend on something that makes being needy go away. Alcohol works. Drugs work. Sex addiction works. Lust works. I mean, control, work addiction, religious addiction. Everything I can do to make me more powerful than how I was born, I'll do. Because it takes away this dependence, the possible humiliation of being human, and being in a position of rejection through the vulnerability of being in need. How important is neediness? And we'll get to this next when we talk about needs. But there's a passage, Isaiah 55, it's really 2 and 3. But it starts out like this. It says, for all of you who are thirsty, come. Then it says, for all of you who don't have money, come and buy and eat. So do you hear the contradiction? If you're thirsty and you're hungry, come, which means it's here. But for all of you who don't have any money, come and buy what's here. So either that's a misprint in the Bible, you come and buy, you don't have any money, come and buy something. All of a sudden I'm in a conflict. You told me to come and buy something, but you said already if I don't have any money, I can come and somehow I'm going to get it, but I don't have any money, but you're telling me to buy it. So what are you talking about? And it hit me one day. It's so obvious. We live in a spiritual economy. If you're going to live from the inside out as God made us, God's currency in the spiritual economy is neediness. Of course, we don't have money. We don't have what it takes to succeed. We can't buy our way or perform our way into the gifts that we've been given by being born, created by God, and called to what we're called to. We can't make it happen. Our neediness is the currency that, quote unquote, purchases God's availability. That's wild. If you think about it, our neediness, the greater we are at needing, the more powerfully present our God. And it doesn't mean that you turn yourself, well, I'm just nothing. No, you're someone and somebody called by grace through faith, not by our own works, into a great, great task. We're not big, we're big deals. Nobody's as big as you need to be, but you're a big deal. And healthy shame allows you to face that you're a big deal. Now, how's that? When a baby's born, do you understand what a big deal this baby thinks he or she is? I'll get you up anytime I want to at night. In fact, I'm going to use the bathroom in my pants. And you get over here and take care of it because my hands don't do that yet. I want to eat. I want to eat now. They cry, they poop, they pee, and they think it's just the greatest thing in the world. And do you understand that a baby gives nothing? They can't do anything for you. They don't pay rent. And yet they're attributed with this unbelievable worth. But I want you to know that that neediness grows up but doesn't change. That neediness grows up but doesn't become someone else. You're never going to lose that. And that sense of that dependency, that child recognizes, I'm a big deal, but I'm not big. I have humility, but my humility does not take away how I'm made. To live fully, love deeply, and lead well. I'm made for a mission called growing up and living. Roots to fruits, like we talked about earlier in the very beginning. So this is humility that takes us to God's availability. and also others' mercy and care and goodness and sharing. The way a marriage works, ultimately, everybody being 100% in. I need you, you need me. I don't have all the answers, you don't either, but let's go get them. I'm not God, and you aren't either, but we're in need of God. You see that? It's amazing. Now, toxic shame is contempt towards myself for being human. Ashamed, which means I do not have shame. It means I'm not human. I'm not like this. I don't feel the feelings others feel, or shouldn't. I don't have the needs that others have, or shouldn't. Ashamed is this: when I look into the mirror and claim who God made me, a voice comes back and says, oh, really? You know, what you really are is inadequate. If anybody really got to know you, do you know what they're going to think? They're going to think disgust, rejection. They're going to see you as incompetent, inadequate, disgusting, sickening. Toxic shame about being dependent and needy and human becomes, oh, I can't be loved or matter or belong unless I become someone else. I've got to change and become someone else. Way against Jesus in Matthew 18:2-3, Jesus clearly says, he brings a child. He said, who's the greatest among us? He says, hey, just bring him that child, please. There's a child standing right here with Jesus. And he says, unless you change and become like one of these, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. So change to Jesus is returning to how you're made and facing your neediness so he can do for you what you'll never be able to do for yourself. Become who you're made to be. Change and become. But no, not us. As soon as we get enough rejection, enough feedback from people around us that how you're made is wrong, because we need to be loved so much, we'll try to change ourselves into something we'll never be. If you tell a fish to climb a tree and convince that the fish is made to climb a tree, the fish will try to climb a tree and for every single day always feel like it is a failure. It's not a failure, it's a fish. It needs water. Humans need certain foods to be vibrantly alive to who they're made to be. But toxic shame makes us try to become somebody we're not. I got to be perfect. I should be caring all the time. I should be stronger than I am. I should be this, I should be that. I should be this, I should be that. And I want you to hear the word. The key word for toxic shame, should. Shame, should have already mastered everything. Somewhere in your lives, you became toxically contemptuous towards yourself for outright needing attention. Somewhere in your life, you became ashamed of asking questions because you said, I should already know that. You get what I'm saying? Somewhere in your life, if you had tears, you started to apologize. You cried, you said, I'm sorry. If you had tears, you ranked yourself as somehow no longer fit for the team. And in God's economy, and in God's environment, and in God's ship of fellowship, without the tears, you're not going to make it. Without the neediness, nobody's running the ship. And it goes on and on and on. So toxic shame is contempt towards myself for how I am created. Now, here's the tough part. If that's not tough enough, toxic shame makes you become a false self. I got to get rid of me and become who people are expecting. I got to get rid of me and become who God's looking for. I got to become God's man. What was amazing was David was called a man after God's own heart because he could never make his heart run far enough away from God to disappear completely. He kept coming back going, here I am, a man after God's own heart. David never became perfect. He just became David. And that David just happened to be a king. So toxic shame becomes not only a hatred towards how I'm made as a feeling, needing, desiring, longing, hoping creature. Toxic shame is where we get despising of hope. Hey, look, man, if you want to be successful in life, don't get your hopes up. And that way you're not going to be disappointed. And people aren't going to be disappointed in you. Lower your expectations. Don't think related to God can do more than you ever ask or imagine. That's just poetry. You didn't mean it. So just get it down. Get it down. And that way you won't have to grieve or feel or need or be dependent. And then finally, toxic shame not only makes us have contempt towards ourselves for being human and believe we have to become somebody else to be okay, it also makes us have contempt towards God. He made us like this. So not only do we get rid of ourselves, guys, a lot of ways, we get rid of God. And we invent a God that we have to perform for instead of be ourselves before. Does that make some sense? So it's not just a rejection of me, it's rejection of how I'm made. And therefore, who made me? So once our healthy shame is gone, our capacity to be present in the presence of God and others is also gone because we're always looking. See, my brain, somewhere early in my life, I started looking at people from the standpoint of, what are you thinking about me? And what are you going to do with what you just thought about me? Because I know whatever you thought about me is not good. And I'm going, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? Now, it comes in all kinds of packages, from the super performer to the scared little, mouse of a person. It doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. What do you think of me? And then on some level, I've got to get your approval instead of pay attention to what I'm called to do and called to be like. So it gets to destroy ministries like crazy. But guys, if I could, and you won't be able to do this, God has to do this for you. If you could take the word should out of your living, you would be so much freer to be in the presence of each other and God than you can imagine. Should. The word should. Should and toxic shame are almost synonyms. Okay, and toxic shame becomes a form of performance, always performing 24/7, 365. Go, 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 go. If you're going to be successful, go. And you're always on the verge of, I can't do anymore. So it becomes tiring. Perform and tired. And then pride. And pride. And pride. And it's all, listen, please do, this is not for you to condemn. This is a person trying to do everything they can to save their lives. Toxic shame is not a badness, it's a survival skill. Resentment's not a badness, it's survival. See, because if people see these and know these, they will reject me. And I'm made for relationship. I'm made for fellowship. And if I can't belong with you, the message is, well, who do I need to become so I can? The need for relationship is more powerful than anything else we've been created like. We're never going to get over that. We need to get good at it. Okay, and then finally, prideful people, worn out, performing, torn up, finally get tired and find some kind of relief in being isolated. I need to find some place to get away from me because I'll never become who I'm made to be. I'm sick of me. Whatever I have to do to not be needy and to not feel these things, I'm doing. So toxic shame becomes, I've got to do it. It's compulsion. And ultimately, it's compulsion to isolate, to not be known, which goes against everything God made us like. Good things happen to known people, toxic shame, bad things happen to known people. Okay? So anytime you're in the bad things happen to known people and the negativity of being human, then you're not on the side you need to be on for your own benefit. And it's very, very painful and difficult, but we need to do it. Be ourselves. So, isolation versus humility. And it's okay to ask people if they love you. It's a terrible thing to demand that people love you. It's important for you to be able to call someone that you know is your peer and say, hey man, I was just calling to say, frankly, I was just calling to kind of ask. I just need you to tell me you love me. Will you tell me? Yeah, man, I love you. Great, thanks, bye. Yes. Kids do it, children do it. Change and become like one of these. Yeah. And that will encourage us to press on. Yeah, I love you. Of course I love you. What do you love about me? Well, I just love that you just asked that question. And frankly, the more you're yourself, the more I'm attracted to you.